It is now 6 p.m. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 26, 2026 Town Council Workshop. Our meeting this evening will be broadcast live on the Town of Double Oak YouTube channel. Once on the channel, please click on the live button. Out of respect for all those in attendance, please refrain from talking to other members of the audience during the meeting. Silence electronic devices while in the Cook Wilkinson Community Government Room. I'd like to ask our Town Secretary, Daisy Torres, to please call the roll.
Councilmember Linda Blesch. She's not here. Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Chris Bump.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Warney.
Here.
Mayor Patrick Johnson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dan McCormick.
Yo.
Councilmember Pat Wellen.
Here.
Okay, we have quorum.
All right, thank you. Councilperson Mike Gortney will now lead us in the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we just come before you tonight and thank you for all that you do for us, for dying on the cross for us. Lord, we just ask you to bless us and to watch over us. Lord, we ask you to take care of our first responders, for our police department, for our volunteer fire department. Lord, just watch over them, give them protection. Lord, we ask for rain. We'd love rain, please. Lord, and we just thank you for the heat. You know, we complain about it, but at the same time, it's part of your process. Lord, we thank you for your many blessings. We ask you to help us with this meeting, watch over us and guide us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Bump will now lead us in the pledges. Please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Nice job. Welcome to all online, and welcome to all here in the chambers this evening. We appreciate your participation very much. So we're going to get right on with the meeting tonight. We do have a hard stop at 8:30. We may use all the time, we may not. It just depends on how the discussions go between the council, the administration, the mayor. First up tonight is we have item 2 is citizen comments, non-agenda subjects. We did not have anybody sign up for non-agenda items, so we'll go ahead and pass right through that. And we're going to move on then to new business agenda, which is the budget work session. And we do have some folks who have signed up to speak on this. So first up tonight is Amanda Martinez.
Hi, Amanda Martinez, 322 East Caruth. I just simply have a question. I'd prefer to have questions after the budget. So, Chris, if you're presenting when you get up, if you wouldn't mind walking through the property tax difference between last year and this year. I've gone through the property tax rates, and I can't come up with the 6,600 number that you show. So that's really kind of the source of my question.
I'd be happy to sit down with you, too.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, thank you very much.
Deb Quarter.
Deborah Quarter, 685 Simmons Road. I have a number of questions. So I don't know how you want to do this. I mean, I've gone through line item by line item and identified ones I have questions on. So do I just go through those? How do you want to do this?
Chris, how do you? Actually, you've signed up for agenda item.
Yeah.
So as we go through, what I'd like, so we get to one of your areas for the question, if you would just stand up, raise your hand, and come up, and then we can ask it at the appropriate time.
Because I'm going
Does
to
that
come
work?
up here about 30 times.
That's okay.
Is that all right?
I have
Okay.
a problem with that.
Just because
Yeah.
I have that many questions.
Yeah, I mean, instead of having you stand up
Yeah.
here for multiple, so, no, we'll make sure that your questions,
Get
to the best
addressed.
of our ability, will get answered.
Okay, and the first question I also had, thank you. was the revenue question, the the revenue income for property taxes, same question Amanda had, is how did you get to what calculation did you use? Because I've also looked at DCAD and tried to back into it, can't quite get to the number, so,
It's a very difficult number to back into.
yeah, yeah.
3 years ago, I literally had to be on the phone with the person from DCAD, and they had to walk me through it all.
Yeah.
And we still never got to the minute, I mean, there were still a few dollars left over.
Well, and I looked through it, and there are the people that have not challenged their property tax values, right? So that's a base. But then you've got the people that have challenged their taxes.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that you're taking some percentage of that to use on top of the base to calculate the property tax revenue. So that's the methodology
And
I'm
we
curious
and we
about.
could go through that.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, thanks.
And by the way, Amanda, it's the same for you in terms of, so just, if you'll be orderly about it, stand up, raise your hand, and then I'll bring you up throughout this process, okay? I mean,
Maybe you two should sit in the front.
I can tell you from experience, when it comes to protesting your property taxes, they're not as understanding as they were a few years ago. So there may be a bunch of protests, but the chances of anybody actually succeeding are minimal.
yep. Andrew Weaver.
Andrew Weaver, North Hill Court. Bike sheds. I'd like to talk to you about bike sheds. Why would I want to talk to you about such a trivial subject as bike sheds tonight? The concept of bike sheds comes from an article that recounts a fictional committee that agenda includes a $10 million nuclear reactor and a $2,300 proposal for a bike shed. Nuclear reactors are complex, difficult for people to deal with. On the nuclear reactor, the committee spent 2.5 minutes in the story. On the bike shed, they waded knee-deep. They spent 45 minutes on the topic. What type of roof should we have? What color should we paint it? What kind of metal should we use? To avoid, so for us, the idea is how do we avoid bike shedding? And senior executives use this term to frequently remind their peoples that this is a metaphor that we want to avoid prolonged discussion on the trivial topics, and we want to remain focused on the strategic topics, the topics that actually make you difficult to wrestle with. So to avoid that, my suggestion is that we spend substantial time talking about the assumptions that significantly can change the town's financial position, particularly when we look at the 5-year forecast. What inflation assumptions were built into the budget? What happens to the budget if the inflation figures are off 1, 2, or 3% in years 3, 4, and 5? What assumptions were made about property taxes? What happens if property values are flat? What if property values decline in years 3, 4, and 5? What will happen? What state laws will impact us? In this room, it has been stated the governor wants to change the threshold for the tax reduction or increase election from 3.5 down to 2. What would be the impact to our future financial situation? These are some examples that the council should consider in a non-bike shed mode. What should these scenarios be? What would be the impact to our service levels? What would be the impact to our capital programs? What would be the impact to our reserve? It's not that small things don't matter, but they must be dealt with in proportion to their value in the meeting. We should be careful with the dollars we spend today, but we should equally be concerned and considerate of the assumptions that we make today, for they define our future for the good or the bad. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And same, Andrew, if we get to a particular point and you want to ask a question, you have.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we're going to thank you for the comments. And again, it will be as back and forth as we can, but we do need to keep it orderly this evening. So please, if you've got something, raise your hand, stand up. I'm not going to cut somebody off that's having a discussion up here mid-sentence. Once it stops, then I will bring you up, okay? All right. So Chris, wanted to kick it off with you. You wanted to kind of go over some high-level stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to spend a little bit of time just to go over the budget calendar and make sure that we all understand kind of where we are in the process. We've developed our vision and goals. We've received the tax roll from Denton County already. We've submitted the no new revenue rate and voter approval rate. We had our first budget workshop. Last week, I did file a proposed budget on August 20th, and especially for the new council members, I just want to kind of explain why that has to happen, because per state law, a budget has to be filed to the clerk's office 30 days before the vote of the final vote of the budget. And right now, we are scheduled to have the vote of the budget on September 21st. So to comply with state law, I took the proposed budget that I presented to you guys last week, officially filed it with the town secretary. It's up on the website. And so to meet the state posting requirements. We are now at budget workshop number 2. In the month of September, we have scheduled the official public hearing for the operating budget for September 8th and the public hearing for the tax rate on the 21st, and scheduled to approve both the budget and the tax rate on September 1st.
So I want to clarify something, just so that everybody knows. We had to file a budget on the 20th. That is not the final budget. Final budget will get approved on the 21st, correct? So there will be a lot of puts and takes that we will talk through during this workshop, during the next 2 council meetings, till we get to the point of where we have a final budget. So, but these are the steps. Someone asked the question last week, are we doing things to make sure that we don't get ourselves in a situation where a citizen can sue? Absolutely, yes. We are completely following the same process that this town has followed for, I don't know, way before me, even including the public hearings on the beginning of the month meeting, the first meeting, and then the second meeting for another public hearing on the budget and the tax approval rate. So we so far have met all of the goals that are required of us up through tonight's evening.
Correct.
So go ahead, Chris. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to identify yourself every time. All right.
I just, before you speak, Deb, I want to be sure.
You're on the record here.
We have continued to, in my opinion, waste time, not discounting the bike shed, I like that phrase, trying to get information that is delaying us in this. So based on what I'm seeing here, and what I believe still has to be accomplished, honestly, I see another workshop in our future, or another hearing after the 21st if we're going to meet our deadlines, because we are still lacking information that we need in order to move forward and approve this budget. So, Deb, go ahead.
What information are we lacking?
We are lacking capital expenditures. What goes into that? Are we anticipating any capital expenditures next year? Right? And what are we adding this year? And
Well, that'll be a part of tonight's discussion.
I get it, okay, I'm just, let's see, but I'm apprehensive that we've been asking for this information and have not been able to get it, so, go.
So there is some information in the package tonight that was not online, so tonight's the first time I've seen it about the capital, but I do have questions about it. So when that comes up, I'm going to come back up. On the truth and taxation, this calendar, there are a couple things, and again, I'm fairly new to this, but on the September, so one of the things I noticed is that there's a 10-day notice requirement and a newspaper posting. Is that for the September 8th meeting that we're doing that?
That'll be for both meetings.
Okay, the 8th and the
21st.
And the 21st? Okay. And that's going in the newspaper 10 days in advance?
Yeah, it'll be in the newspaper on Friday.
Okay.
It's already scheduled, and we posted it out in front of Town Hall already.
Okay, cool. The other thing is, I can tell you the Budget Committee is going to recommend a tax rate increase. Now, whether you guys agree to do that or not, but if we do that, my understanding is that we have to have a standalone tax rate hearing separate from everything else, and it requires a 5-day notice and a weekday meeting. So I don't see anything on the calendar for that.
That would be on the 21st, which is
But
public
it-
hearing for tax rate.
But my understanding is it has to be a standalone, separate meeting for tax rate. So I just ask
No,
that you
it's-
look
it's
at your,
Part of the regular council meeting. It has to be a separate public hearing as part of the council meeting. It has to be an official designated public hearing for the tax rate increase. Doesn't have to be a special meeting, it has to be part of.
no. My understanding is it has to be a separate meeting outside of looking at the budget and the tax rate. So I'm just asking you to look at
Is
that.
your recommendation to go above the voter-approved tax rate?
No.
Then
What
then
I
the
read
public
is,
hearing on the 21st will suffice for that.
yeah, well, I'll show you what I'm talking about, but I'll give it to you separately, Chris, okay? Sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay? Chris?
Yeah. So, any other questions about the calendar? I just want to make sure that everyone saw where, again, we are,
What is our, I mean, so I see we're voting on the 21st, that's the plan today.
that's
So
what's
what is-
planned right now. I mean,
Right, I get it, but what's the drop dead date? What is the absolute last?
We have till the end of September.
So if we approve it in a special meeting on the 30th of September, that meets the guidelines? Or is there more work to be done after the approval?
I'm just looking at my calendar right now.
Well, once the budget is approved,
Yeah?
we don't, all the detail, the 52 tabs, we submit a budget with, it's like a balance sheet.
Yeah?
And so that has to be put together. Typically, it's done the next day.
So it's not the 30th, it's the 29th at the latest.
That is, yeah.
Well, I
We're
mean,
back to the 20,
council will, when council approves the budget, that's our deadline.
right.
Well, I'm asking, at
Okay.
what point do we?
And we have until September 30th to do so,
To submit it?
to approve it, to approve the budget.
That seems to run contrary to what the mayor's saying, that there's work to be
No.
done after the approval.
Well, it's just, we just have to gather the document and put it in its deliverable form.
Right.
That's usually done the next day.
But as long as council approves the budget, then usually it takes staff a few days to put the actual, and he's talking about the actual document.
I'm talking about when does it have to be to the state so we avoid.
It doesn't go to the state, Chris. It gets posted online and technically turned into the town secretary. We don't turn in our budget to the state.
Right.
Okay.
So then the deadline's quite irrelevant.
No, we have a deadline by the end of September, yes, to finish it. Per Texas law, the budget has to be approved by September 30th.
I see.
And then we,
But it's not like we have to submit the budget to the state. But the council has to come up with a formal budget by the end of September.
and that's the same time as then we take the budget and we post it on our website.
Right.
We do all of our things for our citizens.
Roger that.
And like I said, it just has to get into a format. It's not difficult.
Yeah.
He's already got it prepared.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of pulling
so
the
the
tab.
two, so what I try to do is I try to incorporate the process within the two council dates that are scheduled. If we have to schedule another meeting, we schedule another meeting. So,
But we are going to talk about our fund balances. So the fund balances, and you've referenced it as capital projects, the fund balances are there from last year. This council has to discuss those and decide what it is going to be for the coming year. So and we haven't done that yet. So I think that'll clear up a lot of your questions on the capital side. But that's a discussion that happens amongst all of us, and then we can push and pull and move and do all that other thing until it works for everybody, and then we kind of lock it down so then we know.
Okay.
Okay?
and in terms of the capital, the anticipated capital purchases for the upcoming year, I do have a handout tonight to have that discussion tonight to make sure that, at least from what as staff we are seeing as the needs are, that we will be presented to council to include in the budget. That does not, however, mean that council can, it could approve a capital expenditure item anytime throughout the year. This is just capital items that have been identified as part of the budget process for the upcoming year. If things happen, that's why we have a fund balance, things happen throughout the year, bring it to council. If council approves it, then they would approve it with the knowledge that it's being paid by our fund balance, and we'd make the appropriate adjustments.
A good example of that was it 3 years now, when our septic went out? That was obviously not anywhere near our budget or fund balances or capital anything, and we had to turn around, and the council had to make a quick decision to get a new septic put in. So we're going to have emergency things like that that are going to happen.
Okay, very good.
Okay, so I'd like to kind of move into the operating budget right now. If you remember, at the end of our last meeting, at the last workshop, based on the assumptions that were made in the budget that I presented, there was a $60,000 shortfall with that. Since that time, based upon input that I received from council at the last workshop, plus information that was discussed at the budget committee level, going through various line items and identifying areas that might be there to balance that $60,000. I'm making the following changes to that I just wanted to kind of go over real quick, make sure that there's no misunderstanding of where we come up with to balance the $60,000 deficit. And basically, I looked at two things. Obviously, you look at, on the revenue side, you look at the expenditure side. On the revenue side, there was a lot of talk about the sales tax projection, and I have made the comment, I tend to project very conservatively. And when I took a second look at it, and we also got our sales tax number for our payment for the month of August, our sales tax continues to go up. So as a result, I have no problems increasing that sales tax projection up an additional $25,000, closer to the $800,000 figure, and that basically meets with what I'm projecting for the rest of this year. I mean, I'm projecting just under $800,000, so I feel comfortable increasing that sales tax projection by an additional $25,000 up to $800,000. For example, we just received the payment for August earlier this month. It's actually for 2 months in advance.
Right.
And it was $13,000 over what we got the previous August. So the numbers continue to go up, so it's given me a comfort level that I can be a little less conservative on that projection and increase that amount up to, I believe it was $800,000. The other revenue that was increased substantially, and this was based upon input that I received from the budget committee, that it appeared that our court fines revenue was understated. And they were exactly right. When I went back and looked at the numbers, worked with Daisy, looked at the actuals coming in, I should have projected that a little bit higher. And so I'm looking at moving that up another $27,000, which will take us right around the $200,000 mark. The other thing that was brought up on the negative side, and it was a very good comment, if we start spending some of our fund balance, we're not going to have as much interest income coming in. So my projection includes reducing that interest income by another $10,000 over the previous year. Another discussion that's been brought up at the Budget Committee and also the Ordinance Committee is adding an expense reimbursement line item so we can get fully reimbursed on eligible expenditures for engineering cost, attorney cost, and those types of things. So I've incorporated and put into the revenue projection an additional $15,000 in anticipation of us charging more for attorney and public works reimbursement. Additionally, it was brought up and made to my attention that our new home permits, I did not include any additional revenue for new home permits. So I put in a $5,000 amount for that. Because I do know, especially at 250 Simmons, we're going to have a couple homes being built there, and I know that there's about 3 or 4 lots out there that could potentially sell. So I I feel comfortable putting in those additional revenue projections. So on the revenue side, it was an increase of 62,400.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
You're saying there are lots at 250 that could sell?
No, that's
No,
not what I said.
the-
I said there are lots at 250 that they still have not submitted the permit to build the house. There's 2 houses that are currently being built, but 2 additional ones that they have not submitted the permits for to build a new house. That revenue will be coming in next year's new home permit money.
For the 15,000, for the 15,000, which line was that put into? Was it miscellaneous construction, or were you?
The 15,000 it was put into miscellaneous income under expense reimbursement.
Okay.
Showing under charge and services.
Well, I noticed
Oh, there it is.
on,
Got it.
that's under charges for service, for services, miscellaneous expense reimbursement, sewage service. So it's all, that reimbursement is under there. And I noticed that year-to-date, through the end of July, we're at $5,500 on expense reimbursement. But then by the end of the fiscal year, you're showing that we're going to receive approximately another $20,000
For,
for expense reimbursement?
I'm anticipating, I'm budgeting next year that
No,
we would,
that's what you're showing for by the end of this fiscal year. So we've spent $5,535
Right. Oh, I
through
pro-
July,
yes,
but you're projecting that by the end of the fiscal year,
this fiscal year, yes,
it's going to be $25,000.
yes.
So that means you're expecting $20,000 of revenue from that line item
For the current,
basically.
for the current fiscal year, correct.
For this, well, for basically by the end of September.
Yes, sir.
And that's coming from where?
That's the reimbursement that we're getting from direct retail for the planning costs for the development.
Okay. Where does that stand? Has that been calculated? Has it been invoiced?
We are in, we're in the final stages of confirming, looking at the invoices and making sure that the charges that we are charging them are for planning services only. And so I expect that to happen in the next week.
So is it our position then that all other permits we've issued in the past year, in the past 9 months, 8 months, whatever, for individual properties, we're not going to pursue reimbursement on those?
Correct, until we can get the ordinance cleaned up, and that,
It's being done right now.
and it's being done now. In fact, it'll be,
Attorney, right now.
Chris,
So
on
it'll be
on the
coming to
council
council.
meeting, either the 8th or the 21st, that ordinance will be coming to council to clean up that language, which will give me then the authority to actually go after all those reimbursements, not only from the public work, from the engineering side, but also the attorney side of things and stuff like that.
And so as we begin the new fiscal year, we'll be able to go forward collecting. We can't go retroactive. We can't go retroactive because that's putting new rules in that they weren't.
And this town, Chris, historically, especially for residential development, has not charged for engineering.
Anything?
But
carry on.
that'll be going to council and getting it cleaned up, and that'll be given, so starting next year, we can start recouping more of our costs.
So we're at the end of August. We haven't invoiced at this point direct retail partners.
Yes, sir.
And so is the budget of $20,000, is that based upon when it's invoiced or when the cash is received? Because if we don't invoice until September and they pay invoices in 30 days, we won't get any revenue till the next fiscal year.
I'm making sure we get the revenue, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor, just can you flip to the next screen? Because we're talking about the individual line items and nobody can see them on the screen. We're actually on the revenue line items.
Be happy to.
There you go.
It's that expense reimbursement line item at the bottom of the screen there.
Line 48.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, if we see something, if you can call out the line or the cell, that will help us get right to the point.
Okay.
So I do have questions on this. You want me to come up?
Of course.
Yeah. And the reason why we have to have you come up is because if there's anybody online, they can't hear you from back
Yeah.
there.
So we've talked about the interest income, which was one of my questions, because we dropped it another 10,000 from the last budget, the first proposed budget. On line items, roofs and septic systems, there's a problem, I think, with well, I guess I'm questioning, if we're only projecting 1,553 for roofs this year, why are we budgeting 5,000 next year? I'm just looking at trends, so.
So that is a trend. So every 5 years, everybody in this town has to replace their roofs, basically, is what happens, because we get a hailstorm.
Storms.
So we had 1 year where we only had 2,000 or 3,000, and we ended up with 7,000 or 8,000 that year. And then it went into the following year again, because only half of us fixed our roofs that first, into half the years, and the other fixed it the next budget year. So we normally keep 5,000, about that much, just in general, so that we will have that, because we've been so under budget, before that it was ridiculous. And so we've been doing around 5,000 as an average.
Yeah, and-
I can answer that one.
And budgeting for permit revenue is always a challenge, because one year our roof permits might be high, the next year our septic permits will be high. Every year is a little bit different, so on that I try to take a little bit of a holistic approach to our permits and make sure that if you look at the trends, I mean, our permits have been relatively steady, but individually, some might change, some might be higher than another. The big thing on permits that I try to make sure that we're doing is we're charging enough for our permits to cover our cost for inspections and processing the permits.
And then I always look at what our projections are. So if you go to the bottom lines, 5422 was what we expect, or 58 is what we budgeted, so we're not that far off. And then we're going up to 63, I think. I can't see the top lines, but I think that's what we're projecting.
Pretty
We're
much.
about due for a hailstorm, I hate to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, but it's
I
kind
know.
of, kind of the same question on septic systems, because we're, just barely coming in over half of the 10,000 that we're budgeting, so just seems like it might be high from a budget standpoint.
Well, we've actually got more septic work going on in our town right now than we've had in many, many years. And what's crazy is, I mean, Estates of Double Oak came in 1996, I believe, give or take. And I've had to replace mine, my neighbor had to replace his. So I don't know if it was something that happened during that construction time or if they just last that long. And then we have another neighbor up the street that's having to replace their lateral, or their lines. So we're seeing, now, here's the hard part about that, Deb, is we have septic systems attached to homes in Double Oak that we know are not good. It's very difficult to police that. And so that is an area that I believe, when they fail, there's no fix because of the new state
Laws.
Water
Yeah.
laws.
Yeah.
So you don't get to just repair something or fix something. You're basically putting in a new septic
Replacing.
and you're going to an aerobic. So I can see that, and again, these are projections, but just the amount of septic work we have going on right now tends to make me believe that we're going to have more.
Ordinance Committee also got a request at our meeting from people coming in that said that they really wanted this to start being something that is enforced, because they're living next door to somebody
Who's
that
not.
has a broken one,
That
and
is
that
correct.
stinks and that overflows into their yard, and so they'd like more enforcement. So we're
Okay.
looking at that as well.
Well, and that's part of it. I don't know the assumptions behind some of these, so that's why I'm questioning.
Oh, no, actually, no, they're great questions,
Yeah.
because this is the hard part. We have so many so much diversity in the age of our
Homes.
our communities, or, our subdivisions. And I can tell you that in some of them, they really need it, and we have to figure out, as a town, how we can communicate what needs to get done.
Yeah, because it's painful, it's costly, so.
And
yeah.
and like I said, we're one of the, Estates of Double Oak's one of the newer ones, and I'm seeing a lot of activity there. That's not cool.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yes.
The last question on the revenue is the sewage service at the bottom. So I'm looking for clarification here. I see the $21,000 revenue, but I know in Public Works, we also have a sewage service, which is $21,000.
Yes.
So are they offsetting? I mean, what is that?
Yes, what that is, Deb, is the commercial development that we currently have on the east side of town. They have a sewer system. The bills, it's a pass-through with the city, with the town. We get the bill, we charge them based upon our bill. So this 21,000 in revenue is what they're paying us back
Okay.
after we pay the
Correct.
bill.
Okay.
We do charge a small administrative fee for doing that. So if you go up a little bit where it says administrative fee,
Uh-huh.
that's what we charge them for us having to do the work to actually process those invoices to all the commercial owners in
Okay.
that property.
I assumed it was something like that, but I just have never asked the question.
No,
so-
actually, it comes up every year in budget.
So
Well,
not the-
because it was confusing for a while, especially when the numbers didn't balance about 5 years ago. It was like, why are these numbers not balancing?
Yeah.
And it got corrected, and everything's been good for a number of years.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions on the revenue side in terms of the changes that I recommended? Moving to the expenditure side, I'll try to do better on the overhead. Made a few changes here based upon comments that we received. I took out the $5,000 increase that was put in for attorney services and kept that at the same level at a $30,000 budget. Looking at spending trends, I felt comfortable of reducing down the amount that we budget for building maintenance improvements. That's basically maintaining this building. Historically, we've budgeted $10,000, but we've never really spent that, so I feel comfortable reducing that line item a little bit.
Real quick on that.
Yes.
The reason why it's warm in here, folks, is sure enough, right before a big meeting, air conditioner goes out. So hopefully, I mean, we have the money to pay the bill, obviously, but,
Yep,
so,
they can't-
so we apologize. That's why it's warm in here this evening. We have it rigged to at least come on and off, but we can't control. So I don't think we're going to get the heat later. We'll get.
But it'll be fixed tomorrow. It's just
And they're
our
gonna fix it.
thermostat broke is what it was. So, but that's the line item that pays for those types of things. I reduced our PD staff training by $5,000 after speaking with the chief. And if you remember, when I looked at and shared with you guys our special revenue funds, there's a special revenue fund called LOS Training, of which we can transfer some of our expenditures that we're currently charging now out of our operating account directly to that special revenue account. So it gives us a chance to take a little bit of pressure off of the general fund operating account. I have increased the Double Oak Fire Department contribution by another $10,000, up to $120,000. And I'm sure the mayor will be talking about that later. And then the other increase was a little bit extra in the IT service and support based upon a new quote that I got from them where their costs are going up slightly due to increased costs that they have, but also in that line item, I try to anticipate if we have any special projects that I might need to have them do. I wanted to try to make sure that I have a budget for that. If I do need to pay them on an hourly basis for anything, I have that ability to do that without stealing from another line item.
Chris, and I do not want to bike shed this so very quickly. When I look at the attorney services, right, and our budget's $30K, and through July, we've only spent 13 and change. My only question is, do we anticipate a spike in the last 3 months, or is this something that we don't really kind of track so we can keep a more up-to-date projected for the year end until we get to the budget cycle?
Both. I am seeing a spike in there with the increased amounts of ordinances that I'm having them review. Plus, as everyone has noticed, he has been at a few more meetings. So yeah, I'm anticipating expenditures to go up. I'm going to do my best to we'll keep it as best as we can, close to that $30,000 figure. And again, you got to remember, these are projections at the start of the year. Some line items are going to overspend, others are going to underspend. We try to project the best we can based upon the information that we have. But it's both, Chris, is what's going on.
And we also have conversations with the attorney, especially this time of year. Sometimes they're notorious at not getting their billing done. And so we try and make sure that they can get all their billing done, so we have that information.
I have a question also about
course.
some of the assumptions.
Sure.
So on the expenditure assumption, you have a 2% COLA, but I've gone out and looked at the labor statistics, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they just put out a new one actually for the end of July, and it's 2.9 for this area, for Dallas-Fort Worth. So I'm worried because we got into a situation before where we didn't keep up with cost of living increases, that if we don't, that we'll get behind again on some, especially our patrol officers, get behind on those salaries where we will not be competitive again. And that was tough on us before when we did that. So I'd like to propose a 2.9% increase. That would not be for people that just got a promotion, though. It would leave them out because they already got a raise based on promotion. So it'd just be for anybody that did not get a promotion. Going to 2.9. Actually, I also looked at, because somebody asked me, well, what is Social Security doing? They're going to 3.8%, but that's nationwide when you look at that. Whereas I only looked at Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that's 2.9% right now.
So question along that line, Chief. We have the levels that we apply to the police every year. Does that continue ad infinitum, or does that stop after a period of years?
So each rank has a number of steps in it. So in patrol, we have 7 steps. The corporal, I think, only has 4, same with the sergeant, 4 or 5. So the goal is, through the cost of living adjustment, to constantly move those steps up. Each step goes up by whatever the cost of living amount
Well, I thought they were
is
separate.
every year.
I thought we had a
They are
step
separate, they are
and a
separate.
COLA.
Yes. And
So my question is, if a patrolman, as an example, has been here with us 4 years and he's hit the step 4, does that mean that going forward, we just give him a COLA? Or does he get maxed out and he gets that step 4 every year plus the COLA? Or how does that work?
so patrol officers have 7 steps.
Okay.
Okay, but yeah, once you're topped out, all you're getting is your COLAs from there on in. The COLA basically adjusts the entire step range up, each step by 2.9% or whatever council approves. Does that make sense?
So then, let's say that we said that the COLA is 2.9, their step would be 2.9, and then on top of that, we would give them a COLA of 2.9.
No. But once they're topped out, all they're going to get is the COLA.
But while they're getting steps.
They're gonna
you're
get
saying is the
they're gonna
step's
get
already a
step
set dollar
and a COLA,
Okay,
because.
and once they're topped out, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
very
Chris,
good.
Chris, each step increase is roughly about 2.25%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about
Right.
what it is, I just want to understand if, if it kept going forward or if there was a ceiling, that's all.
You know, and best practices are, we do kind of an informal salary survey every year. Best practices are to do a formal salary survey every 4 or 5 years to make sure that you're not falling too far behind,
No, like I said, you're the third rail, I don't want to mess with you guys.
Chief, I'd like you to go ahead and just, this is more education than anything, is talk about this,
Staffing?
yes, the staffing and how, and where we're at and why it is the way it is.
So I thought the best way to do that, I got an email last week from Chris Walker, who is on the Budget Committee, and he had a number of questions, and they were, rational questions that you would expect, and it's an opportunity, I think, to let everybody hear the same sheet of music. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you each one of Chris's questions and then my response back to him. His first question was, how is it determined what is fully staffed? And that's a term that gets kicked around a lot, and I just want to make sure everybody understands what that is. Fully staffed means that all your authorized positions are filled. The number of authorized positions is determined by town leadership through the budget process. Note that with the retirement of the assistant chief in June and the resignation of an officer last week, we're now down 2 positions from our authorized strength, and we're working to recruit for those positions.
Who resigned?
Justin Caulfield, correct.
Okay.
And then, so his next question is, what criteria or data was used to come up with the number of officers? The current number of authorized positions, which is 9, was approved in the 2021-2022 budget, I'm told. I went through all of the council meeting notes for 2021 and could not find anything adding that position. I know that for sure prior to that, we were at 8 positions, and somewhere around 21, 22, it was changed to 9. I can't find any documentation or reasoning behind what that was, so take that for what it's worth. I started in 2025, inherited that 9, took a look at it, and to be honest with you, I believe it's an appropriate staffing level. Not only do I believe it's appropriate now, but, given the lack of growth in the town going forward, I think it's probably going to be an appropriate staffing level for a very, very long time. So I think we're stable with that. So I did a basic sworn strength calculation, assuming 24/7, 365 coverage, because that's who we are, and I believe our current staffing level is appropriate. And I can share more on that if anybody wants to hear that. And then the next question was, what was the number of Double Oak police officers in 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25? In 2020, it was 8. In 2021, it was increased till 9, and it's been 9 since then. No
But that
positions.
doesn't mean that we had 9 hired.
Correct, that's authorized
That's-
strength.
that's
not
important.
staffing. So that's an important distinction. There's your authorized strength, and then there's your staffing. When I came on in January of 2025, we were already down 2. We had 2 vacancies, and shortly after that, another officer left. We were down 3. So we're down literally 33% of our entire staffing, 50% of our patrol staffing. That's significant. His next question was, what was the reason for the increase? You'd have to go back to 2021, but with all the research that I've done, I haven't been able to find any documentation as to how that happened. What is our crime rate compared to neighboring cities? Bartonville, Lantana, Copper Canyon, Highland Village, Flower Mound, and Argyle. And I attached a spreadsheet that comes from the NIBRS reporting that all agencies do to Department of Public Safety. And if you want, I can share some of those select numbers, or folks can just take a look at that spreadsheet if they want to do that. I'll throw some numbers out there. So keep in mind that NIBRS reporting only captures certain types of crimes, right? It doesn't capture everything, but it is the only standard that's available nationwide and statewide to compare jurisdictions. So this spreadsheet included every law enforcement agency in Denton County, so not just municipalities, but also ISDs and any other sheriff's offices, things like that. Argyle PD, the way that type 1 crimes are broken down is number of offenses per 100,000 people. Argyle PD was at 539 offenses per 100,000 people. Bartonville was at 679 offenses per 100,000 people. Copper Canyon was at 193 offenses per 100,000 people. Double Oak was at 357 per 100,000 people, and Flower Mound at 621 per 100,000 people. So basically where that puts us is right about in the middle of those six departments. And we can try to dig down into that more if anybody wants to see more on that.
So just to clarify, that's per 100,000. Double Oak has 3,000.
Correct.
So that means the actual crime in that category for Double Oak would have been approximately, 12. So
I'm showing 11. so,
really low.
Yeah, 11.
So you
Type 1 crimes.
got to be careful, because when you say per 100,000, that works great for big cities like Dallas and
Sure,
Fort
but,
Worth.
but I'm using the numbers that the state and the federal government use to standardize across all agencies throughout the country.
What kind of crimes does it not include?
So, let me get you my NIBRS. Here's, I'll give you a list of them.
Generally.
Well, it's better if I give you a list of the actual ones that it does include. So we have Group A offenses. There are Group A offenses, Group B offenses. Group A offenses, we report all of the incident data. Group B offenses, we report the arrest data only. So, and the difference there is, a crime can be committed, and an arrest is never made because the suspect isn't found, right? So Group A offenses, which are incident data reported, include crimes against persons, and there were 5 in that category: assault, homicide, kidnapping, human trafficking, and sex offenses. Then there are crimes against property: animal cruelty, arson, bribery, burglary, counterfeiting, destruction, embezzlement, extortion, fraud, larceny/theft, motor vehicle theft, robbery, stolen property offenses. So that covers a lot of different stuff. And then crimes against society, so drug violations, gambling, pornography or obscene material, prostitution offenses, and weapon law offenses. Group B offenses for which arrest data only is reported are things like bad checks, curfew and loitering violations, disorderly conduct, drunkenness, driving under the influence. Family offense is nonviolent, so that might be interference with child custody or something like that. Liquor law violations, peeping Tom, runaways, trespass of real property, and then there's a catch-all, all other non-Group A offenses. So those are the things that get reported and are included in those numbers. Yeah, you know, it doesn't include things like traffic stops. It doesn't, you know, there are a lot of things that we do as a police department, especially Double Oak does as a police department, that don't fall under any of these categories, right? So, so that's where that stuff is. That's where the numbers come from. I was asked, how do we compare to same neighboring towns re size of police force? And so we have Bartonville has 7 officers, which calculates to 277 citizens per officer. Argyle has 19 officers, which calculates to 335 citizens per officer. Double Oak has 9 officers, which puts us at 339 citizens per officer. Highland Village has 32 officers, 501 citizens per officer. Copper Canyon has 4 officers, 581 citizens per officer, with the footnote that Copper Canyon is not 24/7 coverage. Flower Mound has 112 officers, and that comes out to 710 citizens per officer. So again, as we are with the crime rates, we're right in the middle of the numbers. There are of the 6 that he asked for the information on, there are 2 that have a lower citizen per officer rating and 3 that have a higher citizen per officer rating. So we're in the ballpark on that. He asked, are all officers patrolling, or do we have full-time administrative positions, including yourself? My reply was, I am the only full-time administrative position. 5 officer positions and 1 corporal position are assigned to patrol. The lieutenant and the sergeant both regularly help out with patrol where we have gaps, as well as working on administrative tasks, criminal investigations, including crime scene callouts, property and evidence management, TPCA accreditation management, recruiting, background investigations, training, TCOL compliance, CJIS compliance, et cetera. And, you know, one thing that people tend to miss about police departments is that regardless of the size of the department, whether it's a 2-man department or a 1,000-man department, there are things that are legislatively required that we do, that we capture. You know, we have to do our racial profiling reporting every year. We have to comply with CJIS. We had not 1 but 2 CJIS audits this past year, which is, you know, unheard of in my career. The auditor that came said that technically, legally, every agency in the state, which there are about 2,300 agencies in the state, are supposed to be audited every 3 years. But they just didn't have the personnel to do that, right? So now they're cranking up, they're hiring more personnel, and they're starting to do these compliance audits. TCOL compliance, you know, TCOL is very particular about how we keep records on officers. A lot of it is to avoid that whole gypsy cop syndrome where you can, you know, you're just about to be fired and you can resign and go on and work for another agency. So that's what we're trying to prevent through that. So all those things are a large administrative burden. TPCA accreditation, you know, most mid-sized to large agencies have at least 1 person full-time that works on accreditation. My last agency, we had a full-time accreditation manager, and she managed us not only through the process of getting accreditation, but in maintaining accreditation going forward. So she worked on our policies and procedures, made sure that they were up to date.
How are we staying on top of accreditation right now?
So we're just starting to dip our toes into it, but that's to say, so each agency has an accreditation manager assigned, and that's going to be the lieutenant. She'll be doing all the heavy lifting, and what we'll have to do is we'll have to review every single one of our policies. In TPCA accreditation, there are 172, I think, policies that you have to comply with. So what we have to do is we have to go through all our existing policies, compare them with the model policies, decide what makes sense for us. Should we modify our existing policy? Should we adopt model policy as it is, or should we maybe combine the two and get to something that works better for our agency? Then that gets submitted to to TPCA, and they say, yes, you're good to go on this, no, you're not. What are your proofs of compliance? So for every policy, we have to be able to prove that we're in compliance. So that, that's a heavy lift, that's a lot of work, and, I have a friend who's an assistant chief over in Ennis. He has been their accreditation manager now, and he said, they give you 2 years to get it done. It's going to take you every bit of those 2 years. He said, I'm 2 months out from my 2 years being up, and he said, and I got 2 or 3 policies that we're still trying to hash out. So it's a big lift, it's a lot of work. So all that to say, it may seem like we're heavy on administrative positions, but if we want to be an accredited agency, that's part of the game. And if we want to stay in compliance with TCOL, with CGIS, with all these legislatively required standards, that takes some administrative time, it does.
So Chief, can I ask you a question real fast on this also? So you said that they will be patrolling when you'll have vacancies. Are they patrolling now that you have these 2?
Yeah, they
right
were
now?
they were doing some patrolling earlier in the week. Justin left very suddenly. He gave 2 weeks' notice and then came in the next day and turned in all his equipment and went home. So that left us in a holy cow bind, right? And so the sergeant and I was out of the country. The sergeant and the lieutenant stepped up and filled those vacancies. We also have a really good, that's another question that comes on further down the shift, or further down the email, but he asked about, do we ever have shifts that aren't covered? And although it's exceedingly rare, it does happen from time to time. And what we'll do is we'll call over to Bartonville and say, hey, can you guys cover our calls? Bartonville does the same for us. Somebody gets hurt or somebody resigns or they lose somebody, hey, we got nobody for Saturday night, can you cover us? Yeah, we'll answer their calls and we'll take care of them. So I can't tell you how much I value that relationship with Bartonville, because they're our backup. There's a significant amount of time where we have one officer on duty. He's the Lone Ranger. And when I came here, I came from a much bigger agency, and I was shocked that we had times when we only had one officer working. I was very worried for officer safety purposes. But then I found out how closely we work with our neighboring agencies and how, that works out for everybody. And I'm less concerned than what I was. So that relationship has been a blessing. So that's how we cover those rare occasions when nobody's available. But those are rare, and hopefully will continue to be so. Are we using 8 or 12-hour shifts? So patrol is on 12-hour shifts, the sergeant and lieutenant are on 10-hour shifts, and I'm working 8-hour shifts. And then he asked, does one model require more officers than the other? And, there's 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week. No matter how you slice it up, it's still the same amount of hours. So it doesn't matter whether you're using 12 10s or 8s. The problem with 10s on patrol is a 24-hour day doesn't break up evenly into 10-hour slices. And then he asked about the coverage, which we just covered, and our relationship with Bartonville. So that's kind of the 30,000-foot view of, and to answer those questions. And so now the Budget Committee has those answers, and y'all are at the same place as them. And if there's any other questions that anyone has, I'll be happy to try and address those as well. We're kind of in the middle, right? We're in the middle of the range on our crime rates. We're in the middle of the range as far as our staffing numbers go. We're in the middle of we're in the lower third of the range with regards to topped-out pay. So I think that while everything's not ideal, in my opinion, based on my experience, my training, I think that our staffing numbers are where they need to be, and I think that we can be reasonably competitive with our pay plan.
I got a question for you, Chief.
Okay.
Under workers' compensation, you had for this year, we had a budget of 32,520. Okay, and proposed by the end of the year was 35,000 in workman's comp, but yet for next year, only 20,000 is proposed. So we're actually seeing a 35% reduction from this year to next year on workers' comp.
So go ahead, Chris.
We, as I shared at the last, I believe the last budget workshop, we got Our workers' comp rates went down 40%
Okay.
this year from TML.
And that's always a difficult thing to estimate. You know, most years, in an agency this size, you won't have any workers' comp claims, right? But one of them that is extended, that goes for a long time, can eat up that budget pretty quick.
That is correct.
So,
Yep.
okay. Any other questions?
We're
So.
going to go back to expenses? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still in administrative, TMRS under admin IT. So the prediction or the projection is 33,775, but then it's going down next year to 25,155. So just curious.
Oh, yeah, what our TMRS rates went down a little bit for next year. Last year it was 9.6 or something like that. For the upcoming year, our TMRS rate is down to the low 8 point something, so our rate went
Right.
down. Plus, it also has to do with who we have on the books as well. So
Okay.
it's just a simple formula that we get from TMRS.
Okay. So can you kind of explain, I've never asked this, longevity and incentive pay?
Of course.
How is that done?
Yeah, longevity
I'm
is...
sure this isn't the first time this has been asked either.
The town offers each employee a longevity pay. They get a one-time payment in December based upon the number of months that they have been with the town. I believe it's $5 for every month that they've been here. They get a one-time payment in December, which helps out with Christmas, I'm sure, a little bit, but it's one of our benefits that we provide the town employees. It's a once-a-year payment.
Okay.
And it's standard, it's common in the industry.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to understand.
I
Because I'm
struggled
not-
with it at first.
Yeah, because I'm not used to it I'm used to bonuses in corporate America, but this is things
Unfortunately,
different.
So
in
comparing-
government, bonuses are not allowed.
Okay,
So as a
These are
result, they get
workarounds.
creative with these types of things.
okay.
It's always very difficult to compare public safety pay plans because there are so many variables. You know, some agencies we pay for certification, so each TCOL certification that you receive. Some agencies pay for education, some agencies pay for bilingual, some agencies pay shift differential, some agencies, you know, there's all these different moving
Variables.
parts. And so you're never comparing apples to apples. And so just looking at the pay plan, start pay, top out pay, number of steps, really doesn't tell the whole story, you know?
Yeah, because there's the other variables that come into play as to
So
what they
many.
get. Yeah,
And Deb, to get it into the weeds a little bit on the incentive pay, that includes such things as they get additional incentive pay based upon their educational status, if they're bilingual,
Right.
those types of things. And those are built into our compensation plan. That was approved by council.
I got a question. It seemed like when I'm comparing year-to-date through July, that means 2 months not included, and then you're doing a total projection. It seemed like in some cases where we have a minimal, I mean, we had a budget, and then we looked at actual year-to-date, and the actual is significantly lower in some categories. But yet, it seems like almost in every case, that significant difference is being projected for the total year. In other words, it seemed like the last 2 months of the year, the projected costs are being inflated to raise the overall actuals. It's almost like it's trying to justify that we're going to maintain or have a higher budget than we had this year.
Depending on what the line item is, I mean, the projections are based upon what is happening at this time. The biggest fluctuation is always your salaries and benefits. There was no way that I knew that Justin Koffel was going to resign when I'm making the projections for police.
Understood that. I
It's those
understand
types
that.
of things. So, I
But,
mean,
you know,
every
like,
line item is projected a little bit different.
So, for example, under
Sure.
salaries and wages.
Yeah.
Vacation cash out, we had $5,300 budgeted nothing through July, and then for the last 2 months, you've got pretty much, all of it coming into the last 2 months. So
Yes,
then
sir.
for proposed for next year is $4,000.
Yeah, what that particular line item is for, is it's designated for those employees who have left the city, either through retirement or leaving for whatever. The city has to pay out up to 80 hours of what they have on the books for vacation. This is a new line item that we put in last year, because in the past, the town would just have to eat that cash out if it wasn't budgeted. It would just be an over expenditure. So what,
accrue that on a regular basis, and then you're pulling it out of the accrual, or are you guys not accrual?
we're not accrual for that, no. I mean, that's based on our actual.
Corporate America, that's what you do.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
part of the cash
that is one of the differences between the
I just
government
want
and
to
corporate.
clarify, so is that if somebody quits, that we pay them for unused vacation?
Up to 80 hours, correct.
Okay, is that regardless of what their actual vacation entitlement is?
It's what they have on the books, up to 80 hours.
Do we allow them to carry over year to year?
Yes, they can accrue up to 160 on the books
160 what?
hours. But when they leave, they only get cashed out for 80.
So are you planning on somebody leaving between now and the end of September, and that's why we're forecasting that?
The reason it showed actual was zero, because we just had a couple recent retirements. And so with the two people that retired, that's why I'm saying our projection was to 4,600 to pay out the two people that retired.
And they were,
So the proposed number for 4,000 is it's my best guess. I don't know who's going to leave, but we put a number in there to make sure that if somebody did leave, we're not eating the cost, is basically what that line item was for.
and obviously, tenure in position matters. We had 2 tenured people who left, and now we have what I would call not by age, just a younger staff in terms of the number of years and such.
Yeah,
So-
I mean,
So
that's-
that's why, if we were picking up, or if we still had tenured folks here, more tenured folks with years and years,
They would
that
be
number would
higher.
be significantly
Yeah.
higher.
Well, and I even question the vacation cash out, because here's the logic I use. If somebody quits, you may pay them 80 hours, but by the time you hire somebody else, you probably offset that. So that's why I just questioned it in the first place. I mean, just my thoughts.
Before you go, Deborah, getting back to my observation of, seemed like we're inflating the last 2 months. You asked for, one was vacation cash out, another one communications. Year-to-date, $5,400. And then boom, we're adding, in the last 2 months, is $4,000
Right.
in the last 2 months. Chris, Councilman Bump already referenced attorney services. We had budgeted $30,000, we only had spent $13,000. Boom, the last 2 months of the year, we're going to spend another $12,000. Basically 50% of our budgeted actual budgeted attorney fees are going to be in the last 2 months of this fiscal year. Another one, IT services. So it just seemed like, rather than saying, oh, wow, we budgeted too much for certain categories, let's lower the budget, it seems like on some of these things, it's, the last 2 months are being significant numbers, which doesn't, basically provides for what appears to me, a justification for maintaining the same or greater budget.
Well, I would say if you look at the communications line item, that's being reduced by $1,100 next year due to the fact that we're not paying as much. So I wouldn't say that we're just inflating them. I mean, we have to look at individual line items. Some of them is we're getting invoiced late. Okay, sometimes we had invoices late, and so they're not paid every month, and I get a late invoice, and so it skews it. So again, you have to take a look at each individual line item, and I mean, I do it based upon the best projection based upon the information that we have. And if there's an area that we can reduce down because we're not spending as much like communications, we reduce it down.
Well, that's really one of the few exceptions where we actually lowered the budget from this year to
Well,
next year.
I did the same thing as it relate, that I spoke earlier about in terms of building maintenance improvements for this building. We've historically budgeted 10. Looking at the trends, we're not spending that much, so I'm recommending going down.
You may have hit on this, I didn't hear it, under administration, employee insurance. We had a much lower, much less increase. We're showing a 21% increase for administration employees as opposed to the police. Same line item, employee insurance, it's only just over an 8%. So why is administrative with the same 3 people, the same number of personnel, basically 3 times the increase as the police department?
2 reasons for that. Last year, when we budgeted for employee insurance, it was an estimated amount because our insurance rates went up by over 25%. Council instructed me just to do a 18% overall increase rather than a 25% increase. On top of that, in administration, I mean, we have a new employee. Our previous employee was employee only. Our new town secretary has a family, so the estimated expenditures for next year are more expensive because the actual anticipated expenditures for employee insurance based upon who's working are higher.
Okay, well, that's a reasonable explanation. Last question I have jumps down to the commodities section. Council contingencies goodwill. Now, it's a bicycle, $1,500, but we've spent no money. But, you know, from again, corporate goodwill was one of these oddball line items. So what is goodwill when it comes to council?
Occasionally, council will get asked to contribute to a cause, I should say. And some years, we don't spend anything out of that line item. Other years that we have. This just sets up a line item. So if by chance council gets a request to make a payment that is goodwill in nature, I should say, there's a line item set up for that. We traditionally
Charitable contribution?
we have to be very careful because you
thank
can't use tax money for charitable services.
Okay.
But there are instances where the town does get a request by council to contribute to a cause.
Gotcha.
So, for example, about 2 times a year, the mayor will get an email from the county judge. Hey, mayors, it's usually to all the mayors, it's a volunteer organization that works with folks who are underprivileged and poor in Denton County that need mental health services. So he'll reach out, we'll bring it to council. Does the council want to contribute goodwill? Yes or no? Sometimes we say yes, sometimes we say no. The police department, what is it, is it CARES? There's,
We get to that last time.
right. So this just gives the council the ability to approve something like that or have it in the budget. But we've been pretty chintzy on it. I will tell you that. So that's really what this is. And obviously, when the county judge sends these things out, we listen intently. You know, we have bond program coming up. He supports our town. He has a soft spot for our town, so sometimes it's tough to say no.
And I'll say, when council gave to that, it's because we had people that received services from it
Right.
in this town.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would tell them no.
Well, no.
Correct. Yep.
So just to comment back to you, Dan, So I'm seeing the same pattern where it looks like we've only spent so much through July, we only have 2 months left, and yet it looks like our forecast for year end is fairly high. I don't want to give Chris an out, but here's what may be happening. My sense is we're doing cash-based accounting throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, the auditor comes in, and any costs that haven't been paid, they do an accrual on. So if there's late billing or things like that, I can see that be a situation where some of this happens. Just my thoughts.
No, that,
Okay.
and I'd like it to be perfect, but it's
Yeah.
never been perfect, and that's
So-
exactly what's
So I
happening.
assumed some of that was happening with the accruals.
Thank you.
One more thing, on the incentive payout and the workers' compensation under administration IT, the projected year-end cost is less than the actuals through July. You just need to look at your numbers and the forecasted spend.
I missed that one.
Yes,
Thank
you do. There's some more, but those are on this page.
Okay, thank you.
So, are we going on to Public Works, and should I sit back down, or, because we jumped in?
Ever, you had a, yeah, come on up. I do need you to identify yourself, though.
Ever Martinez, 322 East Caruth Lane. Chris, I have a question in regards to the health insurance premiums. What is the breakdown of employee, employee spouse, employee children, or does the town cover
I'll be happy to-
100%?
I'll be happy to answer that. The city pays 100% for the employee
Okay.
and 75% for the spouse, children, family, depending on which coverage it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Deb, come on back.
Hey, when we talk about 75% of the family, are we, because that's really kind of a voluntary thing. Are we covering kids until they're 26? Because that's typical.
Yeah. That's the law. They can keep their children on their employee coverage till they're 26. It's federal law.
So the only option the town has then is to, would be something extreme like lowering the percentage that we cover for families.
Yeah.
I mean, are we not allowed to say, that we'll cover family until the kids are 22, and we'll still cover family, we'll decrease the amount?
We can't do that.
Can't do that.
Okay.
Good try, though. It's-
So to that point, insurance is kind of my world, and that is true. That's the law, federal law, you got to cover the kids until the age of 26. But my question is, are we going out and getting, different proposals to try and lower these rates, looking at deductibles, looking at different carriers, looking at particular different types of programs that actually exist? I agree with you. The rates have significantly gone up over the last 2 and 3 years, especially in what we consider small group, which anything from 2 to 50. But there are options out there that could potentially be, looked at that would be able to, maybe cut that by a half if we're heavily subsidizing the premiums for the employees, employee, and family.
You're exactly right, and we came into this budget process a few years ago. I was told that our increases we were looking at another 25 to 30% for the upcoming year. We have a consultant who actually does that for us. He shops around, he gets us a good deal.
I would recommend that we maybe look for somebody else.
Okay.
The only reason why I say that is because typically in the insurance world, the broker's looking out for themselves, not looking for the best interest of.
What I was going to say, though, for this year, we were only looking at a 2.5% increase because he did go out, shop around, got us the best deal that we could.
Okay.
So our actual increase for this year on the employee insurance side is only 2.5% over last year, and that's keeping deductibles and everything the same. They didn't
Okay.
jack up our deductibles by,
Sure.
so everything's staying the same. And even our long-term disability, short-term disability, all those little ones under the weeds, we actually got a 20% reduction on a lot of those. So we got a pretty good proposal this year.
But to answer your question, yes. 3 years ago, when I became mayor, it was, here's the one, council vote on it, we voted on it. I'm like, well, we can't do this. So the second year, we started to go out and get bids, and we've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend not only shopping the carriers, but also potentially shopping different brokers or.
Can you, is it reasonable to have a couple of brokers competing against each other?
At the end of the day, the rate is going to be the rate, right? But what the broker is actually presenting, that is what sometimes you miss. Because you can go out there and if you line up all the carriers and you give the exact demographic information, they're going to show you a category of what's being offered. But there could potentially be another set of products that could be, you know, not to get into too much details, but that could definitely offset some of the cost of your monthly premiums, yearly premiums, especially if we're heavily subsidizing these premiums. I think that would be something that we could definitely look at and see what other options are available. And lighting a fire under the broker sometime to tell them, hey, give me some other options or I'm walking, does incentivize them to go and look outside of the norm that's being proposed.
And he has, and I plan on, at a future council meeting, to have him come and share some of those options, because he did
That would
come
be
and
great.
share some of that stuff with me. But since we got a pretty good rate this year, I was pretty happy with that. But I had also asked him, do come up with options for us. Because even though we got a good rate this year, I don't know what next year's going to be
Yeah.
and all that. So
Okay.
Yeah,
he has-
we have definitely been doing the bidding thing for the last 3 years, because it was crazy.
All right, thank you.
This is on Public Works. So the engineering fees, so we had a budget this year of $25,000. I know we've had a lot of conversation about recouping engineering fees, but we're going up $10,000 next year. So just curious.
That is in anticipation is if the development gets approved through the zoning process, then there would be money in there to cover those additional costs, which the majority of that increase would be offset by the additional revenue that we're doing in the expense reimbursement account.
Because you had like 15,000, right?
Correct.
So that would be a net of 20 total out of cost.
Correct.
For
Okay,
us.
but shouldn't we show what we expect to spend, even if we have money to offset it?
Well, you show what you're expecting to spend on the expenditure side, and then on the revenue side, you put what your anticipated revenue is going to be in the balance.
But if our development goes forward, wouldn't we expect to have more in the way of engineering spend?
Yeah, but you have 15,000 under a revenue line for recovered expense, professional services, which would include engineering. So revenue, on the revenue side, 15,000, but here on the general engineering, end of year, this is a good example, end of year, $75,000. Proposed for next year is only 35,000, so half
Correct.
of what we're projected. Is that strictly because we're going to start recovering engineering?
No, that's strictly
fees?
because on the engineering side of it, it's less expensive than right now, the 75,000 is for the planning side of the development.
And that's the part we're getting reimbursed for.
Correct.
So, but it has to be on the expense side as well as on the revenue side. So do you have
Correct.
that on the revenue side
Yes.
as well?
That's
Okay.
what that 15,000 expense reimbursement is. So I'm increasing anticipated revenue by 15,000 and increasing the expenditures by 10,000. Do we know what the exact number is going to be? No. I mean, there's no way to know what your engineering costs are
But
going
they
to be.
should offset each other.
But they should offset each other.
Right.
So the recent proposal we had for engineering service from McAdams, 100,000 plus, that wouldn't show in this.
'Cause it's roads.
would
That
be
was
under
part of the
capital.
roads project. That would be,
Under a capital.
That is-
correct. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep. And it's always been that way.
The last thing under this section, and really there's a software services under most of these categories like administration, public works, police department. I'm having a hard time mapping your contract costs to each of these line items. So I don't expect you to give it to me right now, but that is,
It's in a general sense, Deb,
Yeah.
what I tried to do on the software side
Uh-huh.
is those licenses that relate to public works, for example, our permitting The annual license we pay for our permitting software, I'm charging the Public Works. On courts, the court software, I'm charging the courts. The finance, I'm charging.
3 years ago, this was a lump sum item.
Right.
In, I think it was the administration, if I
Probably.
recall. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me.
Probably.
Technology.
And-
They had a technology.
Yeah, it was technology, and we had no idea, no clue where it was being spent, and so we spent the next couple of years getting it all broken out.
Yeah.
So it's a piece here, a piece here, a piece here.
Well, and I get that. In the technology committee, we got a list of all the contracts, and it shows the full account segment, 110, 51, 1000. But I can't map that to this, because this is a different representation than the budget report, which shows the breakout of your different departments, or whatever you're calling 10, 20, 30, you know.
Yes.
So that's the problem I'm having, is just mapping from that to these line items to see what's where. So,
And that's why I'm working on version 2 for you right now.
okay,
so.
cool, thank you.
All right, Chris?
Did you want to make a comment about the fire department contribution?
Yeah, so I've had a couple meetings with the fire department over the last, I don't know, probably 3-4 months. Just conversations between Chief and I in regards to questions that they have had in terms of the fact that I think, don't quote me on the year, I should probably just bring up the spreadsheet. I think it was like in 1987 or 1998 or something like that, the town was giving them $120,000. For some reason, then, through the budget process, it went from 120 to 100. 1 year, it went from 100 to 90, back to 100. And if you look at our EMS contract and you look at the police department, we are obviously not fully funding our Double Oak our Double Oak Volunteer Fire Department. However, our contributions to them do matter in terms of the long-term of how they look at their equipment and such. And so I had asked Chris to do what we could to move it back to the 120, which, again, it was in the late 90s, and we can find that date for you, because they have some wear and tear on some equipment that is possibly going to cost them into some repairs and such. And so we've taken an increase on our EMS contract. I do think it's only fair that we treat our Double Oak Volunteer Fire Department in the same manner. Thus, my request, I've committed nothing to the chief. I've just said, here's what we will go to budget with, and we will see what the council will decide.
Will that 10,000 cover the shortfall, or should we be looking at it?
Well, it's
like-
actually 20. The first budget, we had 110. I asked for 10 more.
Right.
Yeah, so it's 100, so it's 20.
From my conversations with the chief and others, what we contribute, it's approximately only about a third of their budget.
Correct.
They have, they actually, when they dispatch, like right now, they very well, I don't know if they do, but they may have a unit out there on the Ross Fire. If they do.
We're
if
on
they do-
hold with it, yes.
Okay, but if they do that, they get paid by the state. It's not a voluntary thing.
So
They
right
actually
now,
get-
the state is not, right now, with what we're holding, this is from the chief yesterday, I met with him over in his office, is that we're on call for that fire, but there's no state funding for it right now.
But in the past, we have gotten, they
Yeah,
have,
when
they
we-
have been dispatched and they were. they
To
were
the
paid.
wildfire
So,
support.
but my question was, if they have equipment that is end-of-lifing, should we treat that like we would treat the police radios and budget for that, as opposed to just throwing some money at them, not knowing if that's going to be enough or not?
So they also do budget for different
Right.
things like that, so they have it within their budget. That's why I would like to request that the chief come and,
Oh, yes, I've already asked him.
okay, so he is going to come
He
and
will
give us
come
a
tomorrow,
presentation?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because the other thing is, a new fire truck cost close to $2 million
Over $1 million,
now to equip and get. Now, I know they won't buy it brand new, because they've always, this was a used one, they'll do that, but what's our life expectancy on that? The brush truck, the the 3 or 4 different trucks that they have over there, what their life expectancies. I know they've been saving, I don't know what that is, so, but they tried to be financially ahead of the game as well, so that they will have the money to pay for these things as well, but I don't know where they stand on that, so
But
that'd be great
in
to
the
have
past
them.
year, we've given them money for lights.
Just the lights. That was the first time we've done something for them since I've been on council or the mayor.
Right.
Was just last year.
Right, 'cause the year before
It's
we-
been significantly long time before we
Yeah.
did really anything other than just give them their annual disbursement.
So in your mind, and having talked to him, is the annual disbursement better than trying to budget us for an amount?
Well, I think it's because they have a lot of other expenses. And so what we pay them with our 100,000 that we pay them this year or every year, they use that in many different ways. So it's kind of like their operating fund. But I will have Chief come to the next council meeting, if you can make a note of that.
Hey, Chris, can you ask him just what he projects maybe might be some light-type expenses that they may need for the future? Sure. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but I just wanted to bring that out. I wanted that to be called out on where it came from, why it came from. And then, obviously, at the end of the day, though, council, I asked for some money for the volunteer fire department a couple years ago, and I didn't get it, so.
Okay, I'd like to move real quick, with nice transition, Chris, to the capital requests for the upcoming year. I want to give a little bit of a historical perspective, because there were some questions that were brought up as it relates to what have we spent in the past. Due to our annual financial statement, it showed that in 24-25, we had $379,000 of assets. I just want to confirm that is $379,000 of a net depreciated amount. So they pulled depreciation out of the total amount that we spent. But if you look at the chart that I prepared during 24-25, we had a street project that we spent $471,000 on. A portion of that was funded out of the why can't I remember?
SLFRF.
Yeah, the federal COVID money, with the remainder being paid out of our fund balance. Additionally, we bought a police vehicle. Again, this is last year, not current year. We bought a police vehicle, some tough books, some network server equipment. We had a server room upgrade. We bought some computers, docking stations, and a ballistic vest. It's important to understand our capitalization threshold for depreciation is $1,000 and up. So anything above $1,000 gets capitalized and in essence depreciated from an accounting perspective. So, but when you look at 2024, 25, we actual spent was $611,000, including that large street project of capital purchases.
And I would want to make note on the street project, besides the SLFRF dollars, there was money that was in the capital fund the year before that didn't get used, so it was a combination of that year's funds that were shown as capital outlay, and then the current year of 24-25, together with the SLRF funds, we were able to do more streets, get a better bid because we had a bigger bid package.
So Chris, before you move on, help me understand. I've been trying to wrap my head around, you brought it up, capital expenditures. Reason corporations, businesses have capital expenditures is they can then depreciate.
Yes.
And when you depreciate, that's an income tax savings. The town doesn't pay an income tax. So
But it affects your balance sheet.
what is the purpose of depreciation unless you're going to use it for an accrual purpose, for equipment replacement?
Because it impacts your bottom line on your balance sheet. And by law, we have to depreciate all of our capitalized account to determine what our assets are and what is the value of our assets. I'd be more than happy. Again, I am not an accountant, so I am not an expert at that, but
Well, we already appreciate it. I
All
don't
governmental
understand.
agencies are required to depreciate out from an accounting and balance sheet perspective, its capital assets based on the
I can
depreciation.
understand a vehicle, something like that, but when you're doing a road repair, is the road repair
It's a town
depreciated?
asset. The roads are a town asset.
Okay, so we depreciate over time the cost of doing a road repair.
From a balance sheet perspective, yes.
Okay, so do we have a balance sheet?
Of course.
Okay. Is it part of the, I don't think I've run across, I mean, you've got the capital expenditures that we're looking at, the capital purchases from 24, 25. Have we been presented a balance sheet, per se?
I try to include a balance sheet when I present the budget report every quarter.
Okay.
And I put that balance sheet on the website
That's
for every
basically
quarter.
what the cash we have,
It's assets minus,
obligations.
yeah, basically.
Okay.
So moving to current year of capital assets that have been spent up to now, we purchased some evidence lockers for police department in terms of $2,300, and the canopy unit that was approved by council to shade that area over there was $25,310. Those are the ones I could identify now. I have to go back and I don't know if we purchased a ballistic vest this year or not. There might be some small ones in there. When your capitalization threshold is only $1,000, it's a little bit tricky to make sure you include all those little ones.
On your, the vehicle canopy,
Yes, sir.
the construction cost was $25,000. We
Yes.
also had a charge from McAdams of about $3,700. Wouldn't that, if they was engineering specific to the canopy project, wouldn't we have been able to, or shouldn't we have put that $3,700 in with the construction cost? Or did we? Because I understand
I
the
did not, but
construction-
that's a great catch, Dan, quite honestly. And what happens is our auditor at our year-end audit, he basically goes through every single invoice that we pay. He reviews every single invoice, and during that time, he will notate, is this a capital item or not? And I'm sure that he will be, when he does his year-end capitalization journal entry, I'm sure that he will catch that.
I caught it.
Exactly.
Now, you know about it.
Right.
So are we going to,
I mean, I could add it, again, these are just at the end of the year, we'll go through all of our capital items and come up with an amount that needs to be depreciated.
So the police radios, the price has increased by 33%. Was that just a bad estimate on our part, or has something else changed?
Go ahead, Dan.
So we're meeting with Motorola on Monday to go over their proposal. There's a lot of line items on that proposal that it's not evident to me what they are. So I need the Motorola rep to sit down with me and say, what is this? No, I don't need that. What is this? Yes, I do need that. So their original ballpark that they threw out was 70, but then when the written estimate came in with all the add-ons, the base radios were 70, but there was a lot of programming add-ons, a lot of options and things like that, and there's just not enough explanation in the proposal to satisfy me. So Chris and I are going to sit down with him and say, what is this? What is this? What is this? So the final number will probably be somewhere between 70 and 102.
is Motorola the only game in town for these?
They're the
these
500,
radios?
they're the 500-pound gorilla, and so we have to have, our radios are on the county's system, the sheriff department's system, so we have to be compatible with them. Their techs have to be the ones that work on our radios and program them for us and things like that. So really, from a practical standpoint, it's Motorola.
Is there an annual subscription or service fee for these radios? And is that in our budget?
Yes, we pay that to the county.
Yes, it is. That's part of our operating budget, yeah.
So we pay them for dispatch services and for communication services, and for jail services.
So for a $100,000 expenditure, we're not going to be, we shouldn't expect even the ability to get a competitive bid to Motorola.
That's correct.
Okay.
We've got to be compatible with the system that we're
I
on.
understand compatibility, typically we're talking frequencies. And I'm-
It's way, way, way more than frequencies.
I know it's just more frequencies, digital, digital, everything's digital now. I doubt that anything's analog.
Nothing is analog.
Nothing's
Everything's
analog, so it's
encrypted.
digital.
It's encrypted end to end.
I just find it surprising that somebody, some entity like a Garmin or a Siemens hasn't come up with a compatible, competitive option.
For a lot of those types of purchases too, Motorola has already gone through the cooperative purchasing agreement where they've got approval through the state, what's
Correct.
called the state DIR, which is a preliminary approval, so this radio costs this much money. That just allowed, because since everybody goes through them, so they go through this DIR process to make sure that towns aren't getting ripped off,
Yeah.
basically. And so they comply with that state
Or if
requirement.
they are getting ripped off, it's legal.
And consistent.
And consistent with
And
everybody.
consistently ripped off, okay.
Okay, so tell me again where the subscription is for Motorola, or for, I'm looking at contractual services.
Sure.
Is it under software licenses?
Is it under communications? Is it,
Is this something we can proceed while you're looking?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, I want to talk about capital, since that's what we started with. So there is a general fund spreadsheet that I have that shows capital outlay in '25 of $320,000. It was showing $611,000 here. I realize SLFR was part of that. I don't know if we have a reconciliation of the SLFR funds and what we spent them on, and so we can, I've just never asked for it, but I'm assuming we've got something that shows how we spent
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We
'Cause
have
there
to
were
go
some-
through the formal grant documentation process.
Yes, 'cause
That-
there
that
were-
That report takes about 3 hours.
Yeah, because I'm assuming there were guidelines around how that money could be spent, and it had to be spent in a certain amount of time, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, yeah, I looked in the audit reports, I couldn't find anything, so,
Actually, yeah, I have the reports
okay,
that we printed out, but tonight was budget.
yeah.
I normally have my town council binder. They're in my town council binder.
So did we spend all the SLFR funds?
Yes, we had
Okay.
to. It was 758 or 56,000,
Okay.
give or take a few dollars. And it is all accounted for, and it all had to be designated for and paid before the end of last year.
Okay, by the
So
end
we
of
got,
'25.
we got done early because of our issue that we had with 3 employees, and we had to write a letter and all this other stuff. So we were going to make sure that we stayed in compliance. We did all of our, we still have to report out. So I still had to do a report, even though we're done with the
done.
program.
Okay.
So it'll probably be that way for another 2 or 3 years because of the way the program works and for larger cities who have done different things.
Okay.
But we have, all of that is all identified.
Accounted for?
Yeah.
Okay,
I could probably do it by memory,
yeah,
but we can talk,
separate?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about '26. So I'm going to go back to the June 30th P&L, My Budget report that was distributed in the July packet to council members. The very back page of that report shows the Vehicle Replacement Fund, it shows a Capital Outlay Fund, and it shows Town Special Projects.
Okay, Deb, 1 second. Chris, do we have that we can put up on the overhead? What she's talking about?
The June 30th My Budget report. It was part of the first, I think it was the first or second meeting in July. It was part of the agenda packet for the town council.
Yeah, just
It should be on the
do
website.
that if you can, please.
Yeah, so we can visualize what I'm talking about.
It'll also be easier to talk to.
Yeah.
Again, folks, I apologize for the uncomfortable room conditions,
Better than outside.
but
It was
we
June.
were not going to cancel the meeting last minute.
That's what it is.
Yep.
Chris, just looking at my notes on I believe that the police radios is that 8555, that's budgeting communications. That's our contract for
Under
the
communications.
service of those radios.
Yeah.
That's the 8,000. That's the 8,000 you're budgeting for next year?
Correct.
I'm seeing 8,000. Where's the 8555? I'm just looking at.
So you're saying it's under the communications line, under contractual services?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, just, again, I just want to reiterate, because we have an 8:30 hard stop, but we definitely want to get to the tax rate. So, I don't know how many, what did we call them? Red sheds or bicycle?
Bike sheds.
Bike sheds. But they're all important, they all matter. I'm not trying to make fun of the process. But we do want to we want to address that, because I think you made a statement earlier
Yeah.
that.
I mean, we're going to suggest going to the highest rate
No, two different departments.
that we can.
I'm neither agreeing or disagreeing. We
Right.
need to be careful with the wording that we
Yes.
say.
Yes.
That's all I care about.
And again, it's a recommendation from the committee. It's up to you guys to decide.
My ears are open.
Yeah.
So there isn't anything that I take from that.
Yeah.
I just know that if we use the wrong words, it can be construed as something else, and I don't want that to happen
Yeah.
to the budget committee. I don't want it to happen to this council, and obviously we don't want it to happen to the town. So we just have to be careful with our
Okay.
wording. Right, Chris? Because I got yelled at the other day for it.
Yeah, you are.
No, you're going the wrong one. You need to go down streets.
What is that? Which one you looking for, Deb? No, it's actually above that. You're going.
It's
right.
yeah, it's,
And then we'll need you to increase the Zoom, please.
Go down. Which line item are you looking at, Deb?
so the report I have, if you keep going down, keep going. Okay, that right there reports, that's what I call the P&L for the operating budget. The report I have had special funds below this,
Okay.
and I don't see them here. Yeah. So I don't know where I got this report, but what it shows is, I'm going to skip the vehicle replacement fund because I think I know what's going on there. But what it showed was a capital outlay for the police vehicle canopy, which you show here, the $25,310. It also showed town ordinance review for $15,000. Now, I know we're using a consultant for that, but as of June, it showed we had not spent any actual money on it. So have we not paid that third-party firm that we use for ordinance? We have? It just, maybe it was happened in July or August, but that was considered a capital outlay, and it's not showing up on this report, on what Chris
Yeah,
is showing us.
That actually was put into a separate special revenue fund. It wasn't capital outlay, it was called Special Projects Fund.
Agreed, but it is spent.
Right.
Right.
But I'm not anticipating it'll be spent this year, yes,
So it's not showing up in our operating budget,
for,
$15,000 for the ordinance. So I'm asking where that money's coming from.
that money came from the fund balance.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Right.
So we have $15,000 that's not showing up in the forecasted spend in the operating budget for the ordinance consultant. There was also a a server reconfig that was 7,200 that we didn't show any spend for through June. So again, I'm questioning, is that something we're spending this year? That's why I asked for a forecasted spend on these, right? So we know what we're spending this year.
Right, and I'll be happy to get that for you. This is what I put together, special revenue project budget for next fiscal year.
I'm looking at this year.
I know, but
26.
this is the budget that we're looking at for next fiscal year.
What I'm trying to state here is that our operating budget that we're looking at is not reflecting costs that are coming out of our general fund. They're not visible to the citizens. This is the point I'm making. We're spending $15,000 on the ordinance review. You also had the Tyler ERP upgrade. The budget was $60,899. As of June, $40,346 had been spent. Are we going to finish off the rest of the budget? Again, this is a cost not showing up in our operating budget anywhere. So what I'm saying is we are in deficit spending. I don't care if it's capital. I don't care. I'm looking at cash. So what I'm saying is we're not getting a full view of our costs for 26 because there's money going out the door, whether we're capitalized it or not, that's not showing up in our operating budget. So we're spending down our general fund, and that's a view I think the citizens need to see. So, police canopy you're not showing the ordinance consultant, you're not showing the server reconfig or Tyler ERP. So that's 8,000, and you've only got 27 here. So I'm looking for, what are we spending on those items through year end?
For those items, I'm anticipating spending everything that was budgeted for in current fiscal year. This is a budget for next fiscal year.
So that's $131,000 over and above our operating expenses that we're drawing down our cash reserves.
And those purchases were approved by the council.
I don't care if they were approved by the council. I'm saying we're not reporting them.
They had to be approved by the council, and this is where we take and make an entry through the system, right?
Yes.
This goes to what I was talking about, though, as far as what we're not seeing.
Correct.
The capital funds that we're being told are there, or have been spent, or plan to be spent, but we're not seeing what they are, And quite honestly, it flips both sides, right? Because if we don't spend that money, that's additional funding for this coming budget. So
Well, no, you're talking, these are expenses that were approved by council to be paid out of the fund balance for a specific purpose, not part of the operating budget, that were put into a special revenue account for this year.
So
They were not put into, again, I think we're getting into the definition of operating account versus one-time special revenue account purchases. Those items are for one-time revenue account, special revenue account purchases. The operating budget is for your day-to-day expenses that come in.
okay, so when I look at the balance sheet today,
Sure.
has that 100,000 already been pulled out?
of our cash reserves,
If you look at the balance sheet, it depends on which fund you're looking at. It's called fund accounting though, Chris, okay? You have in government, you have different fund accounting.
We
Our
have
operating-
one balance sheet that you're pulling money out of.
No, we have a balance sheet for each fund.
well, wait a minute. Sure. So correct me if I'm wrong here. There are state mandated funds, court technology, court security, child safety fund. Those funds have their own revenue source, typically, right?
Yeah.
But these capital outlays that he's setting up as special funds are coming out of our general fund.
No, they're coming out of our fund balance. That's
Right.
different. That is different than the general fund.
Let's just say it's coming out of our cash reserves. We're nitpicking over the terminology. What I'm pointing out is that we're spending money out of our fund balance that is not in our operating budget. It is invisible to the citizens. They don't see the spend. I know you came to council and got approval for these. What I'm trying to do is make sure our citizens have full transparency to what we're spending. I don't see that because I know we've spent a little over at least 100, maybe 150 of general fund balances, of cash reserves this year that are not reported anywhere, that we're showing the citizens. And the same thing is happening with the 27 budget. You've got a $116,000 budget we can't cover with operating revenues. And we don't have streets in here. We have 58,000 in streets and drainage that are budgeted for 50, that you're saying for 27. We haven't even spent that this year. We have a McAdams estimate for over 100,000 that doesn't include construction. There's nothing in here for streets.
Because those were committed funds as part of our fund balance,
Gatsby.
and we don't move those monies over into a special revenue fund until council approves that expenditure.
And is
Again,
that
we
part
cannot
of-
cover these costs with our operating revenues, so we're.
Most towns do not cover their capital cost as part of their operating budget. They have a capital outlay account.
That is incorrect.
That is not,
It is
that's
incorrect.
100% correct.
If you go back, I've talked to Billy Garrett, I've talked to other town council members, this is not how we did it before.
That is correct, and it was being done wrong,
Well,
and we made the corrections.
I disagree with you. We are not showing the citizens what we're spending. We're not showing them that we're drawing down our cash reserves.
So we're doing it the way our accountant told us to do it now. They weren't in the past. He did come to us and say that they were doing it incorrectly before. And so our accountant.
Our audit.
Our auditor
Auditor.
here, that was one of his directions whenever I got on council. That was one of his first, when he comes and gives the audit report and all, he explained that it was not being done correctly in past, and so he does. I think Gadsby was part of what we did where we allocated funds toward different things. Like we have in Gadsby, we had the road for Kings.
Yes,
$250.
$1.2 million, which would
So-
draw down our cash reserves.
So we absolutely are, but every town is doing that right now. If you go back and look, or they're starting to get bonds to pay for those
Here's what I'm
roads.
saying. We need to relook at our operating expenses. We need to look at our revenues, because we cannot continue to spend this way without drawing down our cash reserves.
And that's where we need to talk about, again, we need to talk about tonight, which we haven't gotten to. That's where we look at our tax rates.
And
That's where we look at all the different things like that we haven't even gotten to yet.
What I'm trying to make
say
sure.
what we'll have.
I understand what you're saying. The most we can get with the tax increase.
Oh, I know.
Up to the VAR is about 130,000 max. And
No,
that depends on how
actually
you're
less than that.
calculating it.
Well, she's assuming an average price.
Yeah. So that's why I'm asking to see how he's calculating the property tax
But
revenue.
You take out the 6.6, it's already in our budget, it's only 86.
So you referenced $1 million for Kings Road. I don't know where that came
Or
from.
1.2 million in our GASB 54 resolution.
That's
No.
total committed funds.
That's total committed funds.
Right.
For the Kings Road bond project, that's $250,000.
Correct. That
We
is
have
in there.
$350,000 for street improvement, $300,000 for drainage improvement, $250 is committed for county road budget. That money, we just have to hold on that, because when they call us,
We have to have
to
it.
be able to deliver.
Correct.
We got 150 for road contingencies. We have 50 for town hall technology building improvements. We have 100 for general contingencies.
So 1.2 million.
Correct.
And what I'm saying to citizens is that is a drawdown of our cash reserves. I don't think they understand that. And I think we need to make,
Okay,
and I think we need to make it transparent. We are not reporting what we're actually spending
That's-
when we only show the operating budget.
Along the same line, Chris, when we met earlier, about a month ago, Deb and I both, we talked about the fund balance and all these different categories, roads, drainage. And I made a comment, I said, well, it's kind of like we created a category to park money in, because we can't just say extra money. So we're parking it in these different categories that we may or may not ever use it for that particular purpose. But we have to, from an accounting standpoint, this is a question, from an accounting standpoint, we have to create these fund balance categories rather than just say, funds, extra funds, rainy day funds, well, again, generally speaking, fund balance. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's part of the GASB 54 fund balance policy, correct?
But it's strictly up to us to what we put in it. The only thing we absolutely must put in it is the 250 for the trip, because that is a commitment we have. Everything else is discretionary.
That is correct.
Right.
Right.
And that's why we have a new
And
gap
that's why we
coming
haven't,
up.
this council has not sat down and said, we should do this, we
Agreed.
should do that.
Agreed.
It's all, what I just read off was last year's,
Right.
And so
and we
if
have
we
yet to
don't,
do it for this
It
year.
expires on September 30th.
right, and if we put it aside and we
Correct.
don't spend it, then the next Gadsby picks it up, basically, or we still have that to reallocate again.
So again, I'm trying to go to a cash view because that's what citizens understand. They don't understand capitalization. They don't understand GASB 54. I'm trying to make sure they understand what this town is spending versus what we're taking in. A very simple exercise.
So I will tell you, the revenue funds that are now being put together, I think give us greater visibility than we've ever had before, because we've always gone, the town has always operated under this fund balance, and they've always taken things out of that fund balance. Yes?
No. Go back
So-
and look at the history. I'll show you it.
So now we have these revenue funds because we never saved up for the police cars. Basically, we'd end up saying.
I'm not
hey,
arguing that one.
So we put it in there.
I'm
We'd
not
like to do
arguing
that
that
with
one.
roads too. We'd like to do that with these different things. That's what we
Again,
need to get to in this council.
We're
is to start
spending more
doing it.
money than we're bringing in, and that's the point. We have to be able to, in my opinion, we need to keep our cash reserves, not just spend them down every year because we can, and not show that to citizens. I know you guys had these conversations. I know you agreed to these, but they don't understand what that really means, is what I'm saying.
But we're confusing them when we say that we're not bringing in more. The town has to go to a balanced budget. Revenue has to equal expenses. The town is not allowed to make money.
Understand?
Over the
And you got
years,
it.
we have
You-
ended up with this
And-
pile of money because we didn't have enough officers, so we didn't pay out those. We didn't do some
Does the town
things.
report a cash flow statement with their financial statements?
No.
Okay, then the town needs to implement
A
a cash flow statement,
statement.
and we won't have this issue. Because
Exactly.
then you'll be able to clearly see revenues that come in and all of your cash expenditures, and it will include your capital expenditures, and there won't be any accruals, there won't be any depreciation, there won't be any of that. You will see revenue in, expenses out in any given year, and you'll be able to see how much then of your fund is drawn down. And if you get some other types of funds, such as grants or whatever the case may be, that will be an
Go in there,
additional
too.
cash flow item that comes in, so you'll see a reduction in your fund balance. So I
It's-
think that's the answer to it.
It's a statement of cash flow.
So
Okay.
does Tyler have the ability to, it should?
Well, we can combine the operational accounts with our special revenue accounts to get a complete
Then
picture.
let's do that.
Yeah. So again, we don't have anything to cover streets in this budget for next year, in my opinion. So I think that's a big miss.
Well, we have bids out right now.
I know. But we need to have some assumptions, just like we do with
Oh, yes.
everything else.
No,
Yeah,
but
that's-
this council has
Yeah.
not had that
And
conversation.
that's where we need to have that conversation. I thought we'd have that tonight, but we're getting into the weeds instead of the bigger picture.
So that's missing, and I think we need to add it in. And that's it on the capital for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I did just want to highlight, we talked a little bit about police radios. There are some, we have 3 computers that need to be replaced because, based upon the replacement schedule, and also a firewall replacement that we're looking at replacing next year. Those small ticket items, but I just wanted to bring it to council's attention. For those are some smaller capital purchases that we're looking at purchasing next year. And with the total amount, we include the police radios, however that might turn out to be, it'll be overall roughly $100,000. There is no designated, at this point, there is no designated revenue for that, so if these were be to purchase now, it would be coming out of our fund balance.
Right.
So why would you not go ahead and, if we know we're going to have to replace computers, why not just put it in the operating expense?
Well, we can do that, then that means we need to come up with $100,000 worth of less expenditure on the operating side. Like Patrick said, your budget has, revenues have to match expenditures. We have to be a balanced budget at the start of the year. So if I put this $100,000 as a anticipated revenue in what's called our operating account, or we call it the 100 account, which is is the daily operations of the town. Based upon the budget that we submitted, we would then have to come up with either an additional $100,000 on the revenue side or a $100,000 cut from the existing budget. Or the choice is you can use your fund balance to pay for that. You have to start off your year with the revenues equal expenditures in every single fund that you have.
Where does the fund balance come from? I guess that's the question.
The fund balance has,
Every year?
it's accumulated over the years.
So we're just trying to get rid of money we already have, it's just we're spending a lot more money than we're really operating in.
No, that's not technically true. It's all accounted for. So if you go back to look at our tax rate in, I want to say, again, I'm going to be a year off, 94, 95, whatever, we were at I think around 2.2%. Over the years, we went from 2.2, I think we went down to 2 a couple years after that, and then we started to go to no new revenue rate for 2 or 3 years. But we were able to do that, keep the taxes low. We weren't seeing we were seeing an appreciation in our values of our homes, which was offsetting what we weren't going to technically collect with a tax increase. But at the same time, we ran a full budget for our police department, and we never came close in any of those years to using the full operating budget for the police department because we weren't fully staffed, we weren't paying benefits, all those things. So when those expenditures don't go out the door, they end up accumulating in our savings account, for lack of a better
The
term.
problem is that we're gonna run out of this special budget here in maybe 3 to 5 years. And
That-
that's when you are asking other people to make their house or their style of living go down by putting a gas station at 200 feet from their yard in order to fix that. And doesn't have to happen. We don't have to hurt our residents in order to balance this budget right now, when we've been doing it this way for all these years. We don't have to deplete this. Because if we keep depleting it, it'll be gone, and then where are we gonna get the money?
And
You're saying
there,
sales tax.
there,
But that's hurting your residents.
there lies the rub with revenue, with diversifying your revenue streams.
But that
And there lies with what our governor is proposing to do off of next year's legislature. And so when I hear Deb mention the fact of a change in whatever, that isn't, it's negative to some, it's positive to others, because if the governor gets his way, and he's going to get his way, he's already got 89 votes on one side of the House, and he's got the rest of them piling up, he's going to get it. And when he gets it, it's going to debilitate the small town from doing any sort of tax increase to cover costs.
But we haven't been using it to this point, so then maybe we start depleting our budget.
We-
We don't deplete it before. It's not a gas station going 200 feet out your front door, Pat.
So,
We're here to talk about the budget tonight, all right? We'll have a hearing on that later. The reality is that we do have to get in front of this. Deb, what you said tonight? Yes. And if we don't start now, and we wait another year because we think we're feel good, if the governor gets his way, we'll be so far behind, we will never catch up.
and that's why the discussion on the thing we don't want to talk about,
Yes,
right?
That is
If
correct.
we don't make a change now.
That is correct.
Then we're going to be stuck when he gets his way.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
In fact, you'll read about it in the Cross Timbers Gazette in September, because my column is dedicated to what the potentially could happen with that. Because there's a lot of detail in this that's not coming out in all the press. You know, the governor wants to limit the increase in tax or spend or revenue for a town. But there's a catch to that. It's your rate of growth, meaning population, plus any sort of CPI, up to a certain amount. If you hit the certain amount, that's great. We're 3,100 people flat. So we're going to be relied only upon the smaller of the rate, which doesn't even get us to the higher rate. And
Online sales are increasing significantly every year.
And so basically what will happen is we will be really limited. All right? we have the best tax rate in DFW, and it's great, and we're proud of it, and we've really worked hard at it. But there comes a time when we just have to look and address it, just as we did when we were at 2.2 and we went to 2.0 and we did this. We now have, we're at a point where we're gonna have to address it. And it's the 800-pound gorilla. I understand it. Hearing you say that, it's important.
Being fiscally responsible would include not assuming that the retail development is going to happen. There's a lot of things can happen between now, and even if it did go forward, there's no revenue expected probably till '28, I would suspect. So if we're betting everything, the future of Double Oak Financial's viability on the retail center, then we are missing the boat. We can't assume it's going to happen. If it does happen, or we have another revenue stream through sales tax and increase in property tax, great. But I suspect that even though we've all seen the forecast that McAdams generated way back in March, that even with the development of the shopping center, it looks good up to, I'm looking at it now, up to 2030. But then our expenses are going, as we've noted, as Chris referenced more than a few times, the retail development down here on 407 and Chin Chapel has kind of peaked. It's kind of leveled off. We're not seeing the increases, but our town expenses are increasing. So I suspect that after 2030, if we do development goes in, again, we won't even see any revenue till 28. We'll see a nice bump in the year, but then our expenses, the way we're going now, expenses will continue to increase. The revenue coming out of the shopping center will go flat, and we're going to be in another crisis area probably around 2035.
You are correct. That's why this is a combination. There isn't one answer, there isn't a answer. There's not a B answer. It's a combination answer. And that's what we have to factor in here. So yes, it's political suicide to talk about an increase in taxes. But the reality of it is, that's reality. And we must address it head on. And we need to look at it with some sort of combination and see, yeah, what's best for this and what's best for that. And the reality is that we do have smart people looking at it, all right? And so eventually, we'll have to come to a consensus sometime near the end of September. I believe we will do that. We'll get some of these questions figured out, ironed out. We'll get you the cash flow thing that you're talking about. But at the end of the day, there isn't an A and an or B answer. This is basically a combination. So again, other than we've got to make sure we use the right words, I get it. I do. And as much as I would like to not do any of it, that is not a choice.
So we've talked about the higher tax rate needed. We used to have a spreadsheet where we plugged that in to see what the revenue would be, because I know we have 6,600 and something already in here.
Those are those numbers up there.
Oh,
Okay, but take out, so it says 92, but that's not really what we have, because at the 1.78836, we already had an increase there, correct?
Correct.
So that is included in our budget today.
Yes.
So the additional just for the 0.195 is not going to be 92, or is that in addition to that?
It's an addition to, it's
That's in
built
addition
into
to the
that, yeah.
6.6. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. It wasn't cumulative. Okay. It's in addition to that 6.6. Okay.
and is the 9.6 the exact number, or did we go 9.1 less like we talked about?
195.
I can't remember if did we go one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It
It doesn't make a
it's
difference. but
insignificant.
It was just it's a safety net.
Okay. So we don't have roads anywhere yet.
Correct.
So how does council feel about earmarking this money for roads projects? Or do we need to earmark it for something else?
I think we need to do cash first. I think we need to establish how much we're going to save, because we are going to make some cuts, and see what we have.
So let's talk about those right now then and get those in there so that we can figure out how much we have left, so that we know how much we would have to say we want to put this toward roads and still end up with a balanced budget. Okay? So, okay, so what, can we get into the cuts and start talking about that so that we can get to, because it's almost 9:45, or 8:45, excuse me.
Or 8:15.
8:15, excuse me. I'm like, sorry, I have a watch that doesn't have any numbers on it.
We will nail those down tomorrow.
Can we start talking about them here so that we can at least get those started to be put in? Because that's what this work session's for, is actually talking about those. So let's talk about those. So what are the cuts that we're looking at? What are the cuts, Deborah, if y'all have things that y'all would like to propose?
Tomorrow, after evening, when we have our budget committee meeting, I have members coming in who are going to make recommendations.
Okay, so y'all don't have them right now for us.
I don't have numbers. I just
Okay.
have general thoughts.
So can we throw out some ideas so that we can start just talking about what those might be here tonight so that we can get some more realistic numbers, though, because that's what this workshop was supposed to be about.
Before we go there,
Okay.
I'd just like to notate something on here. So in line 13, cell F, that's max.
Yeah.
So,
That's how
so
much
all
we
of
have
us
right
sitting,
now.
so do this next year, following year, whatever, all right? So this is the stuff to keep in mind. So everybody thinks, oh my God, we're going to raise the roof. Well, the only way you raise the roof is to go to a voter approval tax rate, which is what Highland Village is going to have to do, which is what Flower Mound's going to have to do. All right? We don't want to get there. Our worst case, if we do some sort of combination A's and B's and C's, is really, we wouldn't even be having that discussion for at least 8 to 10 years. But it would happen within that 8 to 10 years. That would be if something comes online and we're able to take that until it flattens. If we do the thing with the taxes consistently across the board, then we're 8 to 10 years out. So, and I just want to make sure that people understand that that's as high as it can go.
That's assuming that the assessed value of Double Oak properties doesn't decrease for some reason.
That is big
Correct.
time. This is as it is right
If we
now.
go back to 2008, we're screwed.
Yep.
Correct.
Well, then-
Everybody is.
Right, at that point, we have to do a number of different things, either go to the town for, the analysis done by the committee, which shows what the actual rate the surrounding towns are paying versus what we're paying, it's frightening. They're paying 5+%. We can see that tomorrow, when you add ESD 1 and 2.
There you go.
Right, and so, to my way of thinking, and again, the numbers are raw, but when I looked at this, at the 1925, for a $740,000 home, that equated to about $300 a year in extra taxes. So if you got $1.4 million, okay, then it's a $600 or $700 per year increase in taxes. So what I've heard a lot of from the town is we love Double Oak. We want to preserve Double Oak. We want to do everything we can to keep it the way it is. Where my head is, if people get mad at me and vote me out, so be it. But where my head is I'm going to go and say, look, guys, we're going to need to increase your taxes by this much to save the town. And it's going to cost you somewhere between $300 and $700 a year.
Actually,
Next
much,
year, we'll probably do it again.
it's much lower.
It's actually.
Yeah, it's
much-
actually, it's a
Much
lot
It's
lower.
actually much lower than
Much
that, Chris, yeah.
So,
Yeah. And we will have those,
Numbers, yeah.
yes.
I would predict 100 to 150.
You're in
Okay.
you're in the ballpark.
Okay, so that's,
And we'll have that on a spreadsheet.
as I would say, that's less than your prime membership every year.
Yeah.
Okay?
But it's still a big deal. I
But, yeah.
mean, I don't
But-
want to discount that
And-
from
and-
anybody.
And what I'll show tomorrow night at the Budget Committee is we have taken North Lake, Argyle, Copper Canyon, Bartonville, and Double Oak. And I'll tell you, when I first looked at the tax rates compared to Bartonville, I thought, well, damn, I thought we were the lowest. But when you add in
That is
ESD
correct.
1 and 2, Bartonville's at .33.
That is
And they're
correct.
the next closest to us.
That is
We're
correct.
just over half their rate.
Right.
So it's going to be eye-opening for people who come to the committee meeting tomorrow night because they're going to see these rates that other towns are paying and that we've been coming down on our rates for 10 years. And, now the reality's hitting the road, right?
Yes, and that was a discussion that was had every year, 3 or 4 years ago. And, I'm as prideful as anybody for our town. But sometimes pride can get in the way. And now we're at a point where I think pride is definitely in the way if we want to take a look at this. Because in the past, it was just a 1 year. We were just doing 1 year, one
Right,
year, 1 year,
right.
1 year. We cannot do that
We cannot do that.
anymore. It's 3 years, it's 5 years, it's 8 years, it's 10 years. And that's really what we're being asked. The hard part is now we're going to do it with a governor who wants to take control of it. And if you're all aware what's going to happen on November 3rd in the state of Florida, they're going to vote to abolish property taxes, which means, how does a town get funded? Well, a
state.
town gets funded because the state's going to, here you go.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, here's your money, but maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you shouldn't do that. They call them strings. Right now, we collect our money from Denton County. Denton County doesn't tell us what to do with any of it. When the state's going to get involved, that's going to be different. They're going to tell us they're going to sell us on the fact they won't. They absolutely will.
Maybe there'll be some administration change by then, so it won't collapse that.
Well, my fingers are crossed that Texas doesn't go that way because it would.
Oh, well, I remember in Richmond, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty young.
But anyway, those are the things that we have to take into consideration. And nothing's been done by our state. The governor's just working on it, but he's been pitching this thing now
For
for
a
well
while.
over 2 years.
That's right.
And it takes about 3 years before it works its way out. And if you talk to every single mayor, then when we go to lunch at the Denton County, when they have the mayor's lunch, this is the only thing we all talk about. Some towns are better than others. We are way better than everybody else because we accumulated this fund balance over the years. The fund balance that was supposed to have been years ago used for this, and we still have to use some of it. All right?
So we need to see how much we're using every year. I think it's all.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
That is not a problem. There's nothing crazy going on. We'll get you that.
Yeah.
But then it becomes a combination of A, B, C, and
Yeah.
D. And yeah, I ride around on my little e-trike all the time in town. Go ride a bike on our roads versus in a car. Holy crap. All right? So we're going to have to invest in some of this some way.
Yeah.
And I would also caution when you're looking at this, when y'all put this together, you do need to treat the SLFRF fund separate, as a separate
Yeah.
thing, because we had to spend them by a
Well,
certain
and-
time period.
And I'm aware of
So
that.
we did roads.
And that's why I asked if there's some way I can see that,
Yeah.
so I can
Yeah, no,
factor
well-
that in.
Because we normally would not have
Have
done
spent
that
that, yes.
many roads or spent that much money on roads. If we
Correct.
had not had those funds, it
Right.
would be closer to the 200, 300,000
Correct.
that's normally
And I mean,
spent.
before SLFR, I think we were spending about 200,000.
Yes,
per
they
year.
did
And
very
actually,
few roads
you are-
every year.
It was 200,000.
So what I asked for tomorrow, if I can get it from Chris, is our expected capital spend this year, so I can do some fund balance calculations. Okay? And the cash flow thing is something we can
Yeah, that-
plan on. Okay.
Yeah, and I can't do it tomorrow because I have to work.
Yeah, but,
I got to drive around at the golf course and tell people to hurry up and hit. But I'll definitely get you the SLF.
I appreciate it.
It's very simple.
yeah, I mean,
It was a couple of projects with the pavilion,
streets,
the streets. We did fix something here at the town hall that we could do it with. And then,
put those reports in the minutes on the council meetings when you turn those in?
oh, yeah, yeah.
They are.
the minutes somewhere.
Yeah, but we don't have to go search for them.
You've got them separate.
I can get
Yeah.
it. It's easy.
Because I want to be fair. I mean, I want to normalize what I'm seeing and what we spent in the past. And I know that's a factor. It's a big
That
factor.
saved
so.
it. Actually, that conversation we keep talking about, having to have in 3 years or 8 years, we would be having it now if we didn't have the SLF.
Oh, yeah.
I went back and
Definitely.
did the math, and I'm like, wow, this has been a great reprieve. And also, we've been a little bit chintzy with how we spent some of this money. not because we don't want to do it, but we know that eventually we have to, it could run out.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in Highland Village. They had a fund balance, but they used their fund balance to, I'm just going to get me in trouble, they used their fund balance, though, to backload their operating budget. And that's a no-no.
And that's what we want to make sure we don't do. We don't want to, now, one of the issues, now, one of the tough decisions, along with property tax rate increases is, you know, we could reduce our operating expense for the town by $130,000 by going to Denton County EMS
ESD,
services.
yeah.
Now, it doesn't save the property owners any money because they're going to end up paying
Paying more.
on
They're gonna pay
property
more.
taxes, but it would reduce a town operating
budget.
expense by $130,000 a year.
Yeah.
That is not a proposal, folks.
No.
Please.
It's out there, and here's the other thing. We had a woman a couple of council meetings ago raising hell about how Flower Mound is subsidizing Double Oak.
I've heard rumors she's coming back.
Well, you know, again, if she had her way, Flower Mound would cut us off and wouldn't even offer EMS service. Period.
No, we'll be fine. But no, I mean.
Hot pants, right?
Again, I want to clarify, that is not being
That's
thought
not-
about,
Not on the table.
all right?
Yeah, not on the table.
Please.
I think the problem is a lot of people don't understand that. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that our tax rate is low, or like, that's a whole 3% extra that we didn't have. And so maybe, I don't know, there'd be a way we could express that better.
Well, it's also, as the mayor says from time to time, that we save a lot of money by having a volunteer fire department.
Yes, we do.
A lot of money. I mean, that's a big number.
That's a huge-
Doesn't show up here anywhere either. That's huge.
That is correct.
That we tend to, like, take for granted a lot.
That extra $20,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to the value we get.
That is correct, I believe. But again, we'll have the chief come. So we're hedging up on 8:30. This has been great discussion tonight, folks. And again, this continued on. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
Yeah, just a process question, just because
Okay.
we're under a time clock as well. Budget Committee is meeting tomorrow. It appears that they're going to be making some recommendations for council to consider, which is wonderful. I really believe that on the next council meeting on the 8th, we need to set aside some time
Yes.
to have a discussion about that, so we can keep the process moving, because we still have planned, going back to the budget calendar, of having the public hearing for the budget on that day as well. And that doesn't mean we have to vote for the budget, but it's the public hearing for that. So I think that would be a good opportunity to take a chunk of our agenda for that day and discuss the recommendations that the Budget Committee is requesting.
As long as I've been on council and mayor, the 2 meetings in September were pretty much always fully dedicated to the budget. So if we need to approve some radios or some high steel for the 15th story of our building, whatever, it just has to wait until we get to October. This is the most important thing. Now, if we had some important piece of business we have to get done, absolutely, it's going to be there. But other stuff that's going to take up time, so you're exactly in line with the way it's been done, and I think at the end, we'll get through everything we need to do. We're going to meet our dates. We're going to have a good budget, and that's important, because then the new year starts on October 1st.
Yes, sir.
So, with that said, wow, we're right up on time. Citizens that are here that contributed, thank you. All right, hopefully you all got to say what you wanted to say. I know there's more to follow. Online, thank you. And more importantly, council and staff, appreciate all the hard work you've been doing. We'll shore some things up. And Deb, if you can get that information of what you come up with tomorrow night, if you can get it to Chris.
Oh, he's going to have it.
Okay, just so we can meet on Friday and start to look at how it changes the numbers. Okay? All right, it is now 8:29. The workshop is adjourned. Thank you.